will call to order the City of Douglasville's City Council Legislative Work Session for tonight, which is Thursday, December the 15th, 2022. Our invocation will be done by our Community Outreach Coordinator, Ms. Emily Hardaway from the City of Douglasville. And after that, I'll ask Councilman Estes to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the invocation.
Let's pray. Gracious Lord, thank you for this day that you have given us. Thank you for the blessings you have bestowed upon us. As we enter into this holiday season, help us remember to show love, kindness, grace, and mercy to each other as you have shown us. Help us remember to slow down in this busy time and remember why we celebrate this season. Please be with our mayor and council tonight as they make decisions and serve the community. Please give them wisdom and discernment to govern. Thank you for this opportunity to gather together. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Councilman Estes, for leading us in the pledge, and Ms. Emily, we appreciate the invocation. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville's Legislative Work Session. My name is Rochelle Robinson. I'm Mayor of the City of Douglasville. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion only. No official action will be taken tonight, but we will take action on these items that are discussed tonight on Monday at our voting meeting at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the item comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. I'll go over a few protocol issues and items first, and then we'll get right into the meeting. We do have agendas that are printed outside on the desk if you'd like to have a paper copy, and or you can follow us on the screen. I ask that you please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. Only one person speaking at a time. Please, if you come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. Please do not applaud or react to speakers or speak from the audience or cheer or carry on conversations if you're at the podium, and we ask that you would keep those conversations to a minimum as people are presenting. I'll remind you that we're only required to take public comments during the public hearing section and zoning matters. If you have a cell phone or electronic device, we'll ask that you please put those in silent mode or turn those off until after the meeting so they will not be disruptive. The agenda items will be handled in the following manner. The committee chairperson or vice chair or representative, as we don't have full council members tonight, will read the agenda item. That applicant or person that's representing that item will come forward to speak and present to myself and the council members. We will possibly ask questions to help us understand the issue better so that we can have that data to help us make our decision on Monday. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 20 minutes for those in favor of the item and 20 minutes for those in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes to speak. There's a speaker card outside if you'd like to address the council and myself, that you would fill that card out with your name and address and hand that card into our assistant city clerk, and Ms. Jackson. She'll be happy to let you come to the podium and speak. When you come to the podium, please again give us your name and address for the record, and each person has one opportunity. You have 5 minutes. This is not a debate, question and answer format. We're just here to hear the information, help us to deliberate and make a decision, and try to address your concerns. If we don't have the information tonight, staff will get back to you at a certain time within a time frame. If you have printed material, we ask that you would please give that to our assistant city clerk, and she will pass that out, make copies and pass it out to myself and council members. Those are the rules for the meeting tonight, and each committee chairperson, every item is handled under committee, and the chairperson address your concerns and comments to that chairperson, and they will lead that committee and turn it over to the next committee. So now we're following down the line on our agenda. We do not have any announcements outside of the rules that I just read, and I will ask for the Economic Development Committee. I'll ask for Councilmember Howard Estes to take that committee, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Economic Development Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you so much, Councilman Estes. Finance Committee, and that is chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're
We
welcome.
have several items to discuss tonight under Finance. Item A is to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Secure Records Solutions LLC for the Police Department Historic Report Scanning, RFP 2022-016. Captain Ashley Sanders and Tammy Jewell will help us with that. How are you all this evening? Good, how are you? Good, good.
I'm Ashley Sanders. I'm a captain with the police department. How's everybody doing?
Doing
We're
great. How are
good,
you?
thank you.
Great. All right, this is an agreement with Secure Record Solutions to complete scanning of historic police records. That's old reports, case files, pictures, statements, any item that we would keep in our record management system. They'll complete that scanning, they'll make an electronic copy, and then we will move that into our record management system and attach those to individual case files. Right now, they're stored at the old police department, but it will allow us to enter them into our system, and they'll be accessible from a computer anywhere within our network.
Thank you, Captain Sanders. Ms. Jewell, did you have anything to add to that? Anything that, before someone asks you a question, maybe you want to make a comment first?
No, sir, nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that information. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, we would be replacing those records that we now have stored, as you have said, at the old police precinct here downtown, with digital information so that we would not be required to have that storage facility
Yes, sir.
at our disposal. Do you know whether or not there is this, because this is under finance, I'm sure the reason they've got me handling it, are these monies that you are asking to be spent for that, are those in the budget for the police department?
This is, will be under the ARPA grant?
ARPA?
It will be paid for out of the ARPA grant?
Yes.
Okay, I just did not see that anywhere.
sorry,
Just
yes,
wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This will be ARPA funding.
So the funds are there, they are available?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions, comments of council? Take just a minute, Madam Mayor. We don't have a lot of people here, so
I
you got more
know.
time tonight.
It's going to go by fast. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of questions. Have we used this company before?
No,
Or
ma'am,
this
we
is our
have
first
not.
time?
This is our first time.
You have recommendations. I'm sure you're all smart enough to do all of that, but I'm just asking, have you gotten a good report from other
Yes, ma'am.
police departments?
We contacted, our references were contacted about their history. They've dealt with a lot of Georgia agencies, and we got a lot of Georgia government references for this
Oh,
company.
good.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. And so it'll kind of be like we have done in community development and in building. We put everything on, it's like microfiche, not microfiche, but you understand what I'm saying, back in the day. But you put everything in technology, and so it'll have a cloud, or you can pull it up anytime you need it without having the physical records anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a-
Periodically, detectives will have to refer back to old cases, and this will allow them to do it much easier. And we
Yes.
won't have to keep these paper copies.
Okay, and like your cell phone or your iPad or something, is there a certain time frame that you keep them for and you put them in the trash, or you keep them forever and ever, amen?
It really depends on the case.
Okay,
With old reports, they go into our system, and we have reports from decades ago.
oh, wow.
Yes, ma'am. And these records are from the early 90s to
Yeah.
the 2000s. And so they will go into our record management system, and they'll be accessible from any computer on our network.
Good, and so I asked that question about storage, is really I was leading up to, if you have to keep them for a certain time frame. With this company, is there the ability to have just some extra storage so that you can, have time, put more in, you don't have to renegotiate this contract?
Oh, yes, they gave us a time frame.
Okay.
They said 3 to 4 months is what it will take to complete this. And once that's done, we have access to these digital files. They will each be assigned a case number for the case that they were actually part of. And then we will assign those in our record management system to that. And once that's done, the project will be complete.
Okay, all right.
So
Thank
it
you.
then would not be a reoccurring expense each year. This is a one-time deal.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Good clarification. Thank you. Others?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
just
go ahead.
comment, looking at the bid, it looks like they were quite a bit more, but the scoring that y'all based that on, it was almost double what the other company provided, so looked like y'all made a good choice.
We did. One thing that was very important was the company to be GCIC compliant, which, because we're dealing with people's personal information, we can't take a chance on that float now. And so this company met all those qualifications, and they are GCIC compliant, and the other company was not.
That would almost be a deal killer, so to speak, in and
Yes,
of
sir.
itself, would it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that consideration. Anyone else? Okay. Is there any reason, well, can't do that. We don't have enough folks to nod their head. It's okay. So we will take this up on Monday night for a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Captain Sanders and Ms. Jewell, thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, authorize the mayor to execute the professional services agreement between the city of Douglasville and Goodwin Mills Kaywood LLC for professional services regarding the city of Douglasville's comprehensive plan update. Ms. Reed?
Greetings, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Shayla Reed, Community Development Director. Just giving you a little background, this is your 20-year plan with a 5-year update. As you may require or remember, it was last updated in 2018, and we are now up for an update in 2023. So with that, we must have the file adopted by the 31st of October, and staff has sent out an RFP. There were 5 companies that responded to the RFP. Amongst the 5, we found that the top 2 scores would be the groups that we would meet, and we met in conversations with them. GMC was the top applicant, as well as they had the best response to completing by state deadline. They gave us an idea of their past projects. They've given us an idea of their knowledge for the state and local level requirements. And with that, they also confirmed that they're willing to engage in in-person activities with your public to ensure that their public engagement is involved with that. And with that, they've also, again, confirmed that they will meet the state level requirement by that deadline. So with that, staff is asking for your allowance to move forward with this particular contractor.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Reed. Questions, comments, council, Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
The only thing, hi,
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Reed.
Hello, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. So you're saying we had our 20-year comprehensive plan, and
Yes,
these are the 5-year markers
Yes, ma'am.
that we have to go in, and so they would just kind of extrapolate what's going on with our 5 years to see how we can implement some of those issues, those concerns.
Yes, ma'am. So your
Okay.
comp plan is going to touch every area of your city. Your public safety, it's going to touch economic development, it's going to touch park and recs, public services, you name it. Everything of a department that you have, your comp plan is going to touch that. So whatever happened in 2018, as far as that document, we'll update the goals and objectives of that. One of the awesome parts about a comp plan, it gives you a report card almost with
Yeah.
a short-term work program. We have to prove to the state that we've done those projects within that short-term work program. And so your update tells if we've done that, and if not, how we're going to move it forward the next 5 years. We create new projects to put into that 5-year plan.
Okay, so it will not dismiss all the plans that we had before. It's just kind of digging in deeper and then giving us a SWOT analysis to see where we can go in the future.
Yes, ma'am.
And
It
where
tells
we
what
can.
we haven't done, and it says what we're going to do or continue.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Like a progress report?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good.
I like it.
Any others? Seeing none, then we'll take this up, Ms. Reed, on Monday,
Thank you, sir.
and we will move along. I think it'll be a very short consent agenda tonight. Item C, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Georgia Power Company to install pedestrian light poles and underground electrical infrastructure for lighting services to accommodate the Douglasville Downtown Amphitheater and Green Space construction project. Ms. Marcus Thompson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City
Good evening.
Council. Marcus Thompson, City Engineer, 6701 Church Street, Douglasville, Georgia, 30134. So 29 pedestrian light poles were proposed for the downtown amphitheater and green space project along Church Street, Club Drive, and within the site's interior. The agreement before you this evening is basically to allow Georgia Power to begin the installation of the poles in addition to the necessary electrical infrastructure to support them. So, are there any further questions?
We have a site plan, very difficult to read at the scale that we have it in, but we do have one. And Mr. Thompson, you mentioned that the suggestion was for 29 lights.
Yes,
within
that was
area.
recommended by our design professional, TSW,
Okay.
at the initial design phase.
Okay.
And these are decorative pedestrian light poles.
So there is a prepayment amount, and then there is a monthly charge here laid out, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Questions, comments? Madam Mayor?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Thompson, so I see the prepaid amount is that Mr. Chairman has brought out and the monthly cost. Is this inclusive, these 29 light fixtures, is this inclusive of the total bill that we had with Georgia Power, that we were doing installments on that big chunk for underground utilities?
No, these are two separate.
This is separate and apart?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Decorative, but they still work?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So they're nice looking, they're cute, but they're functional as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Others?
I was just going to say that this might be a no-brainer for the consent agenda. I don't know. How are you feeling about that?
I'm not going to try it.
No.
You're not gonna try it.
Okay, we'll move along then. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We'll go to item D. Authorize the mayor to sign Amendment 6 to the city's standard agreement between owner and architect dated June 7, 2019 with Tunnel Spangler and Associates Incorporated for design services for the city's Town Green project to add construction administrative services for the Douglasville Downtown Amphitheater and Green Space project. Mr. Thompson?
So there is anticipation that construction will be delayed due to the unforeseen conditions that we have been faced with, such as the underground rock that was discovered, as well as the unsuitable soils. So with that being said, it's expected for the project to be delayed until the end of April of next year. So the amendment before you is basically to extend TSW's contract time to the end of the project next year.
Which we would of course want that to be done since the project wouldn't be completed.
Right, that's
Okay.
correct. And-
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And it's for construction administration services, which includes one site visit with field reports and the attendance of 2 owner, architect, contractor meetings per month for an additional 5 months. And then also the review of RFIs and submittals for an additional 5 months.
Okay.
Yep.
Questions, comments? Yes, Madam
I'm
Mayor.
sorry, I'm having questions tonight. Is this bottom line to extend the contract throughout April because of unforeseen issues with the development? Is this within our contingency for finances, or is this going to be an amendment to the bottom line for the budget?
This, I would say this is in our contingency, that could be paid in our contingency for.
City manager?
This is in our contingency. We haven't gone over our budget.
Oh, okay, that's good. So we have some cushion,
Yeah, yes,
basically.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Others? All righty. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We'll go then to item E. Authorize the mayor to sign to execute change order number 8 with Raylin and Associates Incorporated for the Douglasville Downtown Amphitheater Green Space Construction Project for the putting green area modifications, mechanical and electrical additions, sidewalk removal and replacement at Church Street, and utility infrastructure modifications. Mr. Thompson and Mr. Steve Morrow, CPS.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening. Before I let Steve give you guys a more detailed outlook of these items presented in the change order number 8, just want to give you a summary of exactly what is being considered, which is the sidewalk removal and replacement near the water line replacement at Church Street, addition of electrical sub panel in the event building facility, hand dryers in the restrooms, the deletion of the putt-putt area, transitioning that into a boulder climbing area, and then the changes made to the FDCs on site per our fire marshal's comments, and also further changes and redesign of the Church Street storm line, and then an additional AVAC to all the restrooms proposed for the Town Green development, and also modifying the security cameras on site. And I have Steve Morrow here to give you guys more of a detail.
Come forward, Steve. Just as you start, I'm just a little curious why we would have ever not had HVAC in the restrooms.
I will, so that question came up, it was answered, and I'll be able to, I think, shed some light on it for you.
Okay, and hand dryers in the restrooms, What,
I will
was our
also-
previous plan? I'm
I will also
confused.
explain that one. I'll give
Thank
you
you,
the
sir. Go
details.
ahead.
Yes, sir. So first, I think the first one, you all have a copy of the presentation. So just the first one for PCO 21, the sidewalk. So I've came to you before and previously talked about the replacement of that water line and the work that we did over there. Well, there was a sidewalk that was originally there that needed to be replaced. So that blue shaded area is just the section of sidewalk that needed to be replaced that wasn't originally accounted for. So we wanted to make sure we got that taken care of. Next one was PCO 31, or the addition of the electrical sub-panel in the event building. So as the design was originally completed, there was an electrical panel that was there to serve the entire building. Well, at the time that we went and got the actual electrical requirements from the elevator manufacturer, when they came back, they actually consumed more power in the panel than we originally anticipated, than it was designed for. So in essence, they basically used up all of the spare electrical capacity in that panel. So it didn't allow for the city to have any future expansion. If you needed to add a circuit for a plug or a piece of equipment or the panel wouldn't allow for it. So we're adding in a small panel next to it that's going to provide some additional spare breakers for the city to be able to use for future expansion. Typically in a panel, if you have one in your house, there's typically a handful of spares that can be used for an electrician to come in and tie to. We didn't have that in the original panel, so we're going to add this sub-panel to it to allow that future expansion if and when it's needed.
In the tower, Steve?
Pardon me, ma'am?
In the tower? Where is it located?
So, it's in the event building.
Okay.
So it's in the electrical room or in the space so it's not, it won't be seen by anybody. This is really behind the, back of house sort of thing where it'll just be there. And if an electrician needs, to run power for something, he'll have the available power there for him.
I'm sure it's much less expensive to do it now than to come back and
Absolutely.
retrofit it later. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Walls were all open and our ability to be able to run and tap into it was much easier now.
Okay.
Okay, hand dryers in the restrooms. So there was a discrepancy between the electrical drawings and the architectural drawings. There was originally supposed to be 2 hand dryers in each one of the bathrooms. The electrical drawings only had the electrical support for 1 hand dryer in each one. So this change is actually just adding in the additional electrical support that's required to run both of the hand dryers that are needed in each one of the bathrooms.
So there were originally hand dryers,
There were hand dryers.
just
in there.
not enough.
That's right. That we didn't have the electrical backbone to be able to run the power to each one of them, which is what needed to be added to be able to take care of this. Putt-putt area changed to the climbing boulder. So this one, as the original design went in, they were designed to have a putt-putt area where there was going to be, obviously, so if you think about going to a putt-putt course, you got to have clubs, you got to have balls, you got to have people there to man it and maintain it. That, I think, was determined to not be sort of the best solution for the city to be able to have a space where people could go and enjoy at will without having it to be manned by staff or anybody all the time. So the transition was made to remove the putt-putt area and turn it into a more passive play area for children to be able to go. We're calling it a boulder climbing, but it's actually it's a playground facility that's made by a playground manufacturer that allows kids with the handholds, like you've seen a rock climbing wall with the different handholds on it. This is kind of a boulder with the same effect. The kids will have the handholds that they can be able to climb on the boulder and have more of a passive play area as opposed to something that needs to be manned by somebody to be able to hand out clubs and balls and not have maybe youngsters swinging golf clubs around and hitting others that might be around. So this change was made to the design, it was priced, and this is what is going to be installed at the town grade. Okay. Fire marshal changes. So again, the original design was designed to code, but in the world of engineering, we have the authority having jurisdiction, who is the actual fire marshal who comes out and has the ability to be able to review everything that's being done. And the authority having jurisdiction has the local authority to be able to make modifications or changes based on the way that they operate, in this instance, to be able to fight a fire. So the original fire department connections were actually attached to the building, which if you're walking down the city or in the city and downtown, you'll see those connections that are attached to the base of the building. Well, in this case, we have the ability in the AHJ, authority having jurisdiction, prefer them to be a certain distance away from the building. So if the building was on fire, they have the ability to come in and connect and put water into the building. Just to a nuance to the way that the design was done, and the fire marshal wanted to see it, so we had to make some adjustments. We had to move the post indicator valves and the fire department connections further away from the building, which was not originally anticipated in the design. So that's what that changes. Okay. Okay, and I really hope this is the last time I come and talk to you all about the storm line on Church Street. I apologize that we've had to talk about it so many times, but Councilman Adams, you'll see, if you're able to see the picture that's in there, you've asked, I think many of you have asked several times, did we do the deductor? Did we delete out what was not going to be done and add in? You can see in there the change that we're making from the blue to the green. We did take out the area that we couldn't run the pipe in because it was congested with other utilities. We worked with WSA. They allowed us to move the storm line into the street. They got it all, we got that all approved and taken care of. They were very helpful, by the way, in their ability to be able to review it quickly, get it signed off, and allow us to be able to move that. So we now have that solution. This is hopefully, I'm confident this is the last time I'm going to talk to you about the storm drain on Church Street. Okay, other interesting one, HVAC in the restrooms. If anybody's a golfer or someone who goes to a restroom who's sort of away from what are typically utility systems, restrooms in parks don't typically have air conditioning. They all have heat for the wintertime to make sure that pipes don't burst and stuff like that. But air conditioning is not always there in bathrooms and park facilities. When the question came up, we started asking that maybe this facility, because of the way that it's being used, the number of people that are planning to be there, it's going to be used heavily during the summertime. We felt like having air conditioning in the bathrooms was probably a better idea. So what this is simply adding the ductwork in. We didn't have to change any of the systems. We're able to connect into the existing systems to provide the amount of air that was needed for the bathrooms just to be able to provide air conditioning in there. Now, just so that you know, there is exhaust air, meaning there are fans that are taking exhaust out of the restrooms. That was originally included in part of it. This is simply to be able to put cold air into the bathrooms during the hot months. Okay. Security cameras. So as we were originally in the construction industry and even in the low voltage industry, the ability to be able to get certain cameras all the time has, because of the chips that are in them, has become difficult. And I think the city had a standard, or either maybe have changed or updated their standard to the cameras that they were using, which were different than what was in the original design. So because we hadn't bought them yet, we were able to change to the actual, Sam helped us to figure out exactly what cameras he wanted, the brand, and we were able to get those included in the contract, but they did cost a little bit more because it's a better quality camera than what was originally designed. So that's really what that's about. Nano lumens, if you're familiar with the design at all on the amphitheater part, we've got these two wing walls that come out from the stage that are basically covered in huge TV screens. So when you get down to the nitty-gritty of figuring out how much power they need, how much electrical it's going to need, you're getting basically the latest generation of this technology that's available, and the power requirements were a little different than what they were when this was designed a year and a half or 2 years ago. So once we got into the detail, there was some additional electrical work that needed to be done to be able to make sure that display is going to be as great as it's planned to be, which is a fantastic latest technology type add to the facility. And I think that covers all of them. The final page there just gives you a review of the cost of each one of them, and then the summary cost. And finally, just like the cost for the amendment, this is within our contingency, and we have not exceeded our contingency and still have room left to deal with other issues that are still pending.
So we're still within contingency, but we're running out.
No, I would not say, so I'll defer to staff to provide you with some of those details. I have them and I can provide them to them, but I think we're doing okay with the open issues that we currently have that are not yet resolved. I'm working very hard to make sure that the appropriate accountability for the costs are in the right location. The ones that belong to the city, we will bring before you and get voted on, and there are others that maybe won't come before you because they're someone else's responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
Sir.
We appreciate that. Questions, comments? Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions. Okay, Steve, I know we talked about putt-putt, and we do have West Pines not very far, and golf courses all throughout the city, Chapel Hills, for example. Boulder climbing, is it safe. It just makes me a little bit nervous about, when you said, I thought about, oh my gosh, I've been there to boulder climbings before, and it's like it still has personnel because someone has a rope around you and you're climbing up, or is this a
So,
smaller
yeah,
scale?
yeah.
For
So this is, we're not wall climbing. This is we can get the dimensions and I can show it to you because we have that. But this is more of so it's a turfed area. So the ground around it is going to be turfed, which is I'll call it a softer surface for kids to be able to fall down and not get hurt. But it is I'll call it a low-lying boulder. Think about a rock in a park that kids would naturally climb on. It's that, but it's going to have the actual handholds on it to allow them to be able to climb on it. And it is a playground. I don't want you to think there's some rocks coming in from somewhere and we're just going to drop it in there and drill holes in it and this is
Oh,
an actual.
no,
No, it is a playground facility that's actually manufactured by a playground company. So it has all of the safety requirements are sort of built into the way that it's constructed. So I want you to, I mean, as safe as, something that kids can climb on can be, it is, because it's made by folks who are focused on making sure that kids have a safe place to play.
Okay, our Parks Director, Mr. Bass, is shaking his head like I agree. Okay, thank you. And then you were talking about the air condition in the restrooms. Is that going to, I guess Georgia Power is going to be excited about that amenity as well as the screens. It's going to bump our utility bills up, or is this not?
No, it's because we didn't actually change the equipment. All we're doing is diverting air into there, so the
Okay.
equipment sizes are going to stay. Is it going to draw on it a little bit more? But not anything that would be any significance to the city's electric or power bill for the facility.
Okay, and then the last thing, it was something about, the cameras. So you were changing the cameras, and you said you worked with our IT director, Mr.
did.
Jenkins, to get the appropriate cameras. Are they going to be integrated with the police department or some area? Are we going to have a command center, Mr. Jenkins, at the amphitheater? And will that be able to marry with the police department so that someone's always looking at what's going on? Because I know that's one of the concerns about the chief. He and I have our quarterly meetings, and he is very concerned about, or just wants to make certain that, public safety is adhered to in the town green, because it's a new facility and a whole lot of activity.
Yeah. You
So with
correct me
that,
if
will they
I'm
marry
wrong.
each other?
So the cameras will have the capability to be able to be put anywhere on the city's network.
Okay,
Currently, though, they are not, there is no command center, because
Mm-hmm.
we did meet with the police chief and understood what his concerns were, but I think there's going to be whether it's a post-construction analysis or a review to figure out exactly how to resolve that issue, to give the chief the access that he wants to
and you have
have.
the other technology person, Ms. Jewell, over here, is going to help us. You got it. Mr. Jenkins, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Sam Jenkins, IT Director, 6695 Church Street. But yes, so we've been working with the PD on selecting these cameras, and pretty much the new camera has AI technology. So what Chief pretty much wanted, so when his guys are out there monitoring town green, because we are going to get the monitoring system, the new technology are able to do things like AI, able to see and search people with red shirt, for instance, black pants. The new
Okay.
technology or Gen 4 type technology cameras, they're able to do those type of things there. So that's why we asked for an upgrading in cameras, because of pretty much Chief wanted these smart type cameras things to be able to do these type of searches. So these are in wishes that what Chief pretty much his direction that he's want to go.
Okay, good. So you've been working with the chief to make certain that everything is cross-trained and everything speaks to each other.
Yes, ma'am.
You're talking Greek to me, but if you know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
good.
We have some cool camera technology coming
Yes, sir.
that our chief would like to see. So that's a big project we're working on. So yes, ma'am.
Very
But this is a
good.
part of it.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Mr. Jenkins. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Steve.
All righty, any other questions? Okay, we'll take that last item up on Monday. Mr. Morrow, we appreciate you. Mr. Thompson,
Thank
thank you
you.
for bringing that before us.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that's all we have tonight under finance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We do have our next committee, which is Public Improvement and Beautification Committee, and you are the vice chair. Do you mind taking that committee, please, for me?
Sure, no problem. Housing and Community Affairs Committee has one item, and that's to reappoint Ms. Antoinette Wright to the Douglas County Community Services Board to fill a term expiring December 31st, 2028. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, sir. Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street. As you read out, Ms. Antoinette Wright is seeking a reappointment. Her last appointment was for an unexpired term for just about a year and a half. She was filling a term that someone vacated, so this would be her first full term of 6 years. I did talk with the executive director for the CSB. He did recommend her reappointment. She's attended all meetings. She also attends all community outreach meetings, as well as she does provide feedback to the board as it relates to community services and public health.
So she has been contacted and is willing to serve now a full term of 5 years, of
Yes, sir.
6 years?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
6 years.
All righty. Questions, comments? Okay. Then we will take this up on Monday night. Thank you very much, Ms. Jackson. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have tonight under Housing and Community Affairs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for correcting me. I was looking at the wrong number. So now we're on number 8, which is Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee. Councilman Estes, you mind taking that? You're on that committee, please.
No business tonight in legislative and intergovernmental. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. We're at number 9, Personnel and Organization Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have one item tonight under Personnel and Organization. So authorize the mayor to execute the Fourth Amendment to the Medical Services Agreement between the City of Douglasville and Care Here Management, PLLC. Ms. Austin Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
evening.
Tia Austin Bing, 6695 Church Street, Human Resources. This item before you is housekeeping. It's an amendment to our Wellness Center agreement with Premise Health, formerly Care Here. As their migration continues to Premise Health, this amendment addresses their professional liability insurance. Premise Health uses a captive insurance group as its primary layer, which is then backed by a commercial policy. There is no cost for the change in this amendment to this agreement. It merely ensures that Premise Health healthcare providers remain covered under the new migration, and that such coverage is formally documented. Our legal has also vetted these changes, and staff recommends your approval. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any regarding this housekeeping item.
Thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Any questions, Mayor and Council? I am thinking about breaking precedent here and asking for this to be placed in a consent agenda just because it is there is no cost and it is a housekeeping item, as
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Austin Bing pointed out. But if anybody objects or thinks I shouldn't,
We don't have enough people to have a quorum to put it on house.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
we got to have a quorum to, okay, all right, well, we'll take this up on Monday.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is that all you
Miss-
have?
Yeah, Ms. Austin, yes, thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Yes, Madam Mayor, that's all I had.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on then to item number 10, which is Planning and Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have several items tonight under Planning and Development. We'll begin with item A, tabled from November 21st, 2022. Consider a request for plat approval for the purpose of combining for 9.77 acres on Chicago Avenue and Van Zant Mill Road, land lot 224, District 2, Section 5, parcels 28 and 34. The application by the Benoit Group LLC, care of Raven Thompson. Ms. Reed?
Greetings again. Staff has met with the applicant in recent days, and they have informed us that they are asking to defer the item until the January 5th date to allow for a revision of their application. And staff has had an opportunity to meet with them to share the necessary steps of that, and so staff does support that deferral if allowed.
Okay, so they have requested tabling this item to extend it to the meetings then of January 5th and January 9th. Is that correct, 2023?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Would that also then cover item B that is also the same group?
Yes, sir. Staff is asking for those items to have that timing in January for those two
Okay.
items.
Questions, comments? Let's start on that end this time, Madam Mayor, if we could.
Yes, sir. No
Yes,
problem.
Councilman Estes.
I'm asking this on behalf of Councilwoman Bardanley, who is out sick, but she wanted to make sure that if this is tabled, that the Benoit Group will still meet the Department of Community Affairs deadline.
The applicant is present if you have that question.
Pardon me?
The applicant is present for that question.
Yes, if the applicant would come forward to answer those questions, please just give us your name and address for the record, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, council members. Can you repeat your question, the DCA
Yes.
deadline?
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Give
could
your
you,
name and address.
could you give us your name and address
Yes,
just for
I'm
the
sorry about
record?
that. Dakota Crothers, Parker Poe. It's 1075 Peachtree Street Northeast.
Okay. Mr. Estes?
She asked, if the Benoit Group table this item, will they meet the Department of Community Affairs deadline? And if so, what is the extended deadline?
So, Joe, you may know that one, or Raven. We are tabling, and I'll give some background on this, tabling just to, we've revised all of our applications and submitted an additional application on behalf of Golden Church next door. And this is to just ensure that there are no landlocking of parcels. But as far as DCA is concerned, Raven Thompson is with the Benoit Group, and she may know more about that.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Raven Thompson, Benoit Group, 6780 Roswell Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30328. So as it relates to the Georgia DCA, yes, we have gotten with them to make sure that we could get an extension so that we would be able to meet their deadline as it relates to closing.
Okay, very good. Do you have a date for when that extension?
So they give us about roughly 6 months as it relates to
Okay.
close with the bonds, and so we would be treading upon that 6 months, right around February, March.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I had asked this question before the group, and when they asked for the items to be tabled at our last meeting that extended to another meeting. This is, I think we have 2 times to table. So this will be, no, we can continue to table?
This isn't a zoning matter. You have a tabling limit on zoning, but
Okay.
no, nothing in your code limits the number of times you can table a plat development.
I asked the same question, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so I
Good-
apologize.
good
I'm
question.
thinking of zoning.
Good
Okay.
question. Others? Okay. So I'll go ahead and read item B.
Okay.
But that is the request, is that be tabled. Item B, table from November 21st, 22. Consider request for development plan approval for the Astoria at Crystal Lake Senior Living Development for 9.77 acres, Chicago Avenue, land lots 193 and 224, District 2, Section 5, parcel ID 022-402-50034 and 022-402-50028. Plans dated September 7th, 2022. Again, application by the Benoit Group. Mr. Marcus Thompson.
All right, Marcus Thompson, City Engineer, 6701 Church Street. As this item correlates with item A, the applicant has asked to table this item to the January 5th and 9th round of council meetings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. So that is a request of the applicant that it be tabled. We will take that up on Monday for action on that item, and we'll move forward. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
Were there questions about this particular item? Okay. All right. Item C, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from R2 Single Family Residential Detached District and OD Office Distribution District to GC General Commercial District for 5.14 acres located on Deer Lee Lane, land lots 52, 831, Districts 1, 18, Section 5 and 2, parcels 5, 7, 10, 39, and 40. Parcel ID number 005201, 50005, 05201, 50007, 0831-182-0010, 083118-20039, and 083118-20040. This application is made by the city of Douglasville. Ms. Reed?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mayor and Council, you may recall, staff has brought this request to you to have clearance to allow for this to be a city-initiated rezoning for these parcels along Durley. As just a little background, we did find that when applications were coming in the door, this particular or these particular parcels did not have the designated zonings that the current uses were having. So staff is moving forward to request to have these zonings changed for that operation to continue for those sites at that location. So I'll make it really quick for the public record on what we're requesting. Again, the city's requesting this. There are no new developments at this time. We're asking for the existing developments and businesses to continue as they are with the new zonings that we're requesting, particularly single-family R2 is what you're finding for these parcels to have, or OD, which is office distribution. We're asking for them to be zoned GC, general commercial. As you're seeing, that's about 5.14 acres plus or minus of those locations. As you're seeing here, there's about 5 parcels. You're seeing where those parcels are located along Durley. There's properties near it for either churches or apartment complexes, and across the streets where you're seeing those, the actual governmental facility for the buses to park along Durley. So it's very much a commercial kind of style use along the northern part of Durley that's still near Highway 92, Fairburn Road. With that, staff shows the surrounding zonings, as I mentioned before, governmental properties across the street in the green. The reddish colors are going to be commercial, and then the brownish color to the rear is going to be where your apartments are located. The future land use does support this rezoning of general commercial. It does allow for that to be within compliance of your comprehensive plan should these rezonings move forward. As you're seeing here, you're seeing a church and you're seeing some businesses that are more commercial use with the exception of the towing company. That particular use is industrial. You're usually going to find that within light industrial, heavy industrial. We have allowed for it to have a license there. However, staff will be asking for it to have a grandfathering as it will have a non-conforming use within general commercial. That particular business is, we're asking to allow for them to continue without closure, but should they close, we're asking for it to go back into its operation of general commercial as we would be rezoning if this is allowed. With that, staff, Councilman Adams, you requested at the last council meeting that we communicate with each property owner. So with that, we sent certified letters. We knocked at doors. We informed them by face-to-face conversation, explaining the process. From there, we explained that the R2 is a residential use and it's not a commercial use, but we explained to them, and they understood from there. Lucky for us, most of the properties have the same property owner, so we were able to not only speak with the property owner, but businesses as well, so they are familiar with what's going on. With that, again, the UDO does allow for us to have this particular use as well as the comprehensive plan. As mentioned, the automotive towing company is not within the zoning that we're asking for, but we're asking for them to continue to be allowed to have that use. It just changes once that use changes hands until someone else comes into play with a new business license. Again, the grandfathering is about 6 months. I know I mentioned that before, but it's about 6 months, meaning if the use is abandoned for 6 months, they are then asked to close their business and operation. But with that, we're asking for if this business moves to allow for it to close. With that, Planning Commission recommended approving December 6th during their regular meeting. Thank you for that.
Okay. Let me make sure I understand, Ms. Reed, and then we'll start our public hearing as far as comments from citizens.
Okay.
So the businesses that are non-conforming, once this rezoning is done, there were 2 of the 5 that would still be non-conforming.
Correct. For this rezone, there'll be 1, and then the next one, yes,
I'm
sir,
sorry,
there's a
for
second.
this one, there would be 1.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
That business is allowed to operate as in a non-conforming zoning issue because even though we're rezoning it to general commercial, that business actually, if they came in new today, would need another zoning classification.
Correct.
Okay.
And that zoning that we're mentioning would not be suitable for that particular location. So we
Okay.
wouldn't be recommending light industrial for that location.
Okay, so as long as it is operated by that owner, that type of business is fine. However, if they closed or suspended business for 6 months or more, that opportunity would go away to use that property for that type business.
Yes, that's what staff's requesting.
And if it ever changes hands or ownership, then they would have to go through rezoning to continue operating that business there.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. we want to hold a public hearing, so if there's anyone here that would like to make comment, either for or against, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record. Our mayor has already given us, I think, the timeframes that are allotted, and we're happy to hear from you. How are you, Ms. Welch?
Cindy Welch, 3002 Concord Way. And I wish they would go back and show you the picture of the stuff that's right there sitting in the right-of-way. And I know another fence has been put up, but those cars are still between the fence and the street. And people cannot walk there. You don't know how many people come from those apartments going up to Highway 92, whether they're going Chick-fil-A, I don't know. And they're walking in the street. Now, if those people were told to put up a fence, which they have, and they were told everything had to be inside the fence, why are they allowed to have that all out there on the right-of-way? And then a new business has also gone in, just a little ways from them with big trucks, and those trucks are now in the right-of-way. I see people walking there all the time, pushing their carts, pushing their child, and they have to walk on the street.
So I'm assuming, Ms. Welch, you are here on behalf of standing in opposition to this rezoning.
Yeah, well, I don't mind I think it should be zoned that area, but I think that those people should be made to not have the stuff in the right-of-way.
Okay.
I mean,
Point taken.
and I know why it's happening, and I won't say it in a public hearing.
Okay.
But you all need to, I first came to City Hall April 21st of 2020 about this when I saw a little girl almost get hit. She was on a bicycle. Now, it doesn't take 2.5 years to get those things out of the right-of-way and make sure that you can walk on that sidewalk.
I think you're speaking of here, Ms. Welch, with all due respect, to a code enforcement issue. And I do agree with that. I do agree with that. It does need to be handled. I support that 100%. But the hearing that we're having now is a zoning hearing.
I understand
Okay, a
that.
rezoning hearing. And I appreciate your comments, and I want to see it taken care of as much as you do. Questions? Others?
I know code enforcement has had them in court, and the next time they go to court, I'm going to court also.
Well, we appreciate your involvement with that. Thank you.
I mean, it's dangerous.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone here to speak either for or against this rezoning, please come forward. Okay, we'll close that part of the public hearing then, and we will take this up on, are there any other questions or comments? Council, Madam Mayor?
No, sir.
Okay. We will move on then to item, is it D? Item D is in David, hold a public hearing and consider a request for change in zoning from R2 Single Family Residential Detached District to NC Neighborhood Commercial District for 1.56 acres located on Deer Lee Lane, land lot 831, District 8, Section 2, parcels 6 and 7. Parcel ID numbers 08311820006 and 08311820007. Application by the City of Douglasville. Once again, Ms. Shayla Reed.
Yes, sir. So this item is very similar to the previous, and so I will only speak of things that I haven't spoken of in the previous, once the slide comes. Okay.
Ms. Reed, while you're preparing that, I'd like to ask a question.
course.
Are all of these items that are being rezoned and the application being brought forth by the city, there are more properties than what we were faced with a few weeks ago when we had the ownership changed, and some of the tenants then came in wanting to renew business licenses. So there are additional properties here that are being rezoned other than just those one or two.
Yes, sir. So we looked at the entire Durley Lane area
Okay.
to make a collective look at that particular street as it ends at Big B Road, I believe is what the name of it is.
Okay.
And so we decided to ensure that that entire road up into the residential component was within the compliance with the type of use that it has.
Okay.
With that being said, I know the slide is kind of taking some time, but I can just jump straight into it to kind of speak of those. Before you get to the residential, there is a daycare. The daycare has 2 parcels. And with that, the daycare has a residential zoning, but we're asking for it to have a neighborhood commercial zoning. Neighborhood commercial does allow for daycares, but it's a special land use permit request. So they, of course, does not have the special land use request because they have an R2 zoning. Staff is asking for us to be able to allow them to continue to have the daycare use without the special land use permit. But should they close, just as we mentioned about the towing company, should they close, they'll lose that clearance or that grandfathering and allow for the next business to apply for the special land use permit should they continue to have the daycare at that site.
Okay.
So again, Planning Commission also recommended approval of that request as well as staff recommending.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, a public hearing. If there's anyone here that would like to speak either for or against, we need to allow that. If there is anyone here, please come forward. Seeing none, then I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Is there any other comment or question of council? Madam Mayor? Yes, Councilman Estes.
I have a quick question. From the previous item and this one, it looks to me like they're adjoining. So how is one being rezoned to JC and the other one to NC? What's the difference there?
That's a great question, Councilman. So let me explain. So across the street from Big B are residential, single-family detached homes. We wouldn't necessarily want to put commercial there, like a strong general commercial, so we're asking for it to be neighborhood commercial. Neighborhood commercial is a less densified use.
So it's a little bit more restrictive.
Yes, for the sake of the
Okay.
residents across the street.
And the way I'm reading this, normally, even under the NC, this would require a SLUP,
That's correct.
but this is going to be grandfathered in without that.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Others? Questions, comments? Okay. Ms. Reed, we thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
take this up on Monday, and I'm sure there'll be further discussion about those items. But these are 2 that have been actually applied for and have been instituted or begun by the city of Douglasville, and I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Last item, item E, consider request for plat approval for the purpose of dedicating and abandoning sections of Gurley and Woods Roads right-of-way on 49.11 acres at 8600 Wood Road, land lot 162, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 1. Application by S.L. Douglas Place 2 LLC. Ms. Reed?
Yes, sir. This is a plat that came before you all back in September, but there's some, as we like to say, it's just some housekeeping and ensuring that the records are correct. The previous drawings said that the right-of-way would be maintained by the applicant. Instead, they were asking for the city to maintain the right-of-way, which is what is typical sometimes with the right-of-way dedications. So with that, the plat has changed to show that the right-of-way dedication would be in fact the city's acceptance should this move forward.
Well, basically, this street has been installed according to city requirements. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
So there's not a change now that after their street has been completed, they now want us to take it over without us having had any control over how it was put together, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay, so basically it's just an error in who would be handling the maintenance of it and how it was labeled on the plat.
Correct.
Okay. Questions, comments? Anyone? Okay. You can see on page 6 of the attachment, the green, red, and blue items that are being changed. All right, we'll take that up on Monday night. And Ms. Reed, I appreciate your information there.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, that's all that we have tonight, once again, under Planning and Development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very well done. I hate to impose upon you again, but you are the Vice Chair for Public Improvement and Beautification Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight under Public Improvement and Beautification.
Thank you, sir. Public Relations Committee, chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Public Relations Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you, sir. Public Safety, our Vice Chair is Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have 3 items tonight.
Uh-huh.
Item A is to hold a public hearing to consider the application for the alcohol beverage license for the retail package sale of wine and malt beverages at the following establishment. Proposed licensee, 12291 Veterans Memorial, Inc., DBA Douglas Food Mart, Location, 12291 Veterans Memorial Highway. Proposed agent outlet manager Shahar Nisa. The required fees have been paid into the finance department. And I believe we have Ms.
Hey,
Nisa
my name-
here. Yes.
Yes, how are you? My name is Sahar Nisa, and just applied for my alcohol license for business. And I need, I'm here for that. If we have any question, you can ask me.
Well, before we have our public hearing, I'll ask the one question we always ask is the training of your employees that would be selling
Yes.
alcoholic beverages, what type of training do y'all put them through?
We prefer for that is that we need to be check the ID for every person, especially for the face ID is recommended. And I put over the rules of sign regulation. If somebody not follow the rules or regulation, I cannot give it to alcohol sale, nothing cigarette or no alcohol.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, before we go to the public hearing, do you have any questions?
I did. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much, Mr. Vice Chair. Captain Sanders, have we had any infractions at this, do you know of? No, that I'm aware of. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, ma'am,
Vice
Madam
Chair.
Mayor, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Estes, since you're the only one up here? Okay. All right, so we will hold our public hearing on this item. Anyone that is in favor of this item going forward, please come down and speak now at the podium. Anybody? No takers, as Councilman Davis would say. And do we have anyone opposed to this item? Come forward, please. We have no one to come forward, so we'll close our public hearing, and we will take this up on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
so
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Item B, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Siemens Industry, Inc. to update the fire alarm system at the Douglasville Public Safety Complex. Captain Sanders will handle this.
Ashley Sanders, Douglasville Police Department, 2083 Fairburn Road.
Yes, sir.
This agreement will allow us to update the fire system in the public safety building. The one we have is about 13 years old. It's outdated. And we were told on our last service call that many of the parts are extremely scarce and some are irreplaceable. So at this point, it would be prudent for us to go ahead and update the system through Siemens, and that's who installed the original system.
Okay, thank you. Captain, do we have any questions from Madam Mayor? Yes, ma'am.
I do. Is this a separate system from the fire department? The police department, do you have your own, or is it?
It's a fire protection system within the building. We have
Yes, sir.
heat sensors, flame sensors throughout the building, and ductwork. As you know, the air conditioners, the heating systems are very big. So there's monitors throughout the building, and it's a standard fire alarm system like you have here.
Okay.
And Siemens actually did the system here. There's a
Okay.
contract here. So that's the same company, and the system we have, like I said, is 13 years old.
Yeah.
And the tech told us that if some of these major components dies, there's nothing to replace them. So we're at the point where we need to do this.
So if you do the update now and some of the parts are going to be obsolete, do you have to change over an entire system when you're looking down the future?
90% of the system that is currently in place will be replaced.
Okay.
That is currently in place will be
Be
replaced.
replaced, yes, sir.
This system will be good and viable for up to 25 years, is
Oh.
what Siemens has told us.
That's good.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds good. So it's not like phones, like you have to update when you get the I something, then the next I number
No, ma'am.
20 comes out.
Nope.
Okay. Hey, thanks. Thanks, Mr.
You're
Vice
welcome.
Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other questions for Captain Sanders on this item? All right, thank you, Captain Sanders. Appreciate it. So we'll take that item up on Monday. Item C, authorize the mayor to sign the asset disposition services agreement with the PropertyRoom.com, Inc. for the sale of forfeited surplus and/or damaged personal property by the Douglasville Police Department. Captain Sanders.
This is an agreement that allows us to partner with PropertyRoom.com to sell the property listed here, forfeited surplus, damaged equipment that we have. Sometimes we have evidence that the victim doesn't want back, and we're required by law to sell that at public auction, and that's what this company does. We did a lot of checking, called a lot of people, talked to people that use them, Carrollton PD, Cobb PD, Atlanta PD, I have a whole list, probably 20 agencies that we actually reached out to. And they had stellar reviews, said it's just phenomenal. And this allows us to not store all this property at the police department over years. We can move it as soon as we get a court order to do that.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman Adams.
So, Captain Sanders, does this do away with our annual or biannual auction that we have there?
So the property that the small property that we commonly put in that auction will be auctioned here. And like I said, we will be able to move it instead of building it up. But it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to completely do away with it.
Just curious.
Yes, sir.
Just a new way of selling, new way of doing business.
Sir?
Just a new way of doing business.
It is. And it gives you a bigger audience too.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Chair. So we will
Yes,
not
ma'am.
have the aucauctioneer? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not saying that we
miss
will
him.
never have it again.
Yes, sir.
But this is certainly a new way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for us because we have areas at the police department where we store property
Mm-hmm.
inside and out, and it allows us to keep from building that stuff up. By the K-9 kennels, we have a fence with a lot of stuff sitting out there, lawnmowers
Yeah.
and other things, and, it sits out in the weather, and this allows us to go ahead and move that as soon as it's condemned by the court.
Yes, sir. So this company will take all the photos and place everything online?
They
and-
will. They have technicians that clean the stuff up. They have certified technicians that guarantee there is no personal information on any electronic device.
Oh, wow.
They make minor repairs when necessary.
Very good for a small fee.
No, we won't receive any fees. No
Oh.
fees. No, ma'am. Because when they sell, they get a percentage of the sale,
Uh-huh.
and that's how they're paid. So we will never get a bill from this company.
Oh, that's great.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Vice Chair.
Madam Mayor. Any other questions? Thank you, Captain Sanders. We'll take that up on Monday. Appreciate
Thank you all.
the information. Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight under public safety.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. You just clear your throat. You're the next committee, Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee, chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have
Welcome.
several items tonight under Recreation, Culture, and Tourism. Item A is to adopt a resolution to authorize City of Douglasville West Pines Golf Club staff to receive compensation for providing golf lessons at West Pines Golf Club. And Mr. Bass, our Parks and Recreation Director, will cover this.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. Chris Bass, 8830 Gurley Road. We are seeking approval to adopt a resolution that outlines how we provide golf lessons to the public and who can provide those golf lessons. Identified in this resolution are the individuals in terms of what positions can provide these golf lessons and how they are compensated. If you remember, we discussed this around September in terms of cleaning up our process. So this resolution clearly outlines how these individuals are compensated and specifically what requirements must take place in order for them to provide these lessons, specifically having liability insurance on their own at their own expense, and having PGA certification in order to provide these golf lessons. The only change with the only thing that changes the current process is how we pay them. Right now, the employees invoices, but now we'll keep it consistent with payroll so that we can go ahead and make any type of payroll deductions in terms of taxes. So just cleaning up the process and making it formal.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. I know we discussed this earlier in the year. I can't remember exactly when, but this is, we've had the discussion about this very thing. So we're just kind of cleaning up how this particular item is handled by the city.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Councilman Adams.
I just have a question. Mr. Bass, does this in any way negatively affect the employee?
No, sir. The only change is how we'll pay them.
Okay, so they now would then they would have all of the payroll taxes taken out prior to them receiving any funds, so they would not have to then turn in a 1099 for the other income.
Yes, sir,
So
correct.
it would be taxed, it would be after tax that they
Yes, sir.
receive it. Okay.
From what I understand, Chris Cartwright is on board with this particular item.
The 3 employees that provide golf lessons are all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? All Thank you, Mr. Bass. I'll move on to the next item. And we'll take that item up on Monday. Adopt a resolution, item B, adopt a resolution to allow nonprofit organizations to utilize city parks facilities with no monetary fee in consideration for providing services and programming to the Douglasville community. Mr. Bass.
All right, so this is another item that I would consider housekeeping. This is a process that we currently have in place, just simply documents it. We are seeking approval to have a resolution that states nonprofit 501c3 organizations can utilize our facilities at no cost in exchange for providing programs, events, and services for the public. Just to highlight a few events that we've had, our Breakfast with Easter Bunny is sponsored by a 501c3 organization. Our Back to School Drive is sponsored by a 501c3 organization. So this just simply says we're able to provide them spaces to do the different programs and host meetings within our facilities. Specifically, those 501c3 organizations that meet a certain requirement in terms of the number of people they reach, and the number we've identified is 500 citizens per year.
So the practice of allowing this has been going on. We're just kind of cleaning that up also.
Yes, sir.
With this item. Yes. Any other questions? Madam Mayor's giving me a thumbs up, so we're good. Okay, Mr. Bass, before I let you go, I've heard that there's my understanding that they're moving dirt over at Jesse Davis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dirty is moving. Our city engineer might be able to give a better update, so I'll try, Marcus. But we have started the grading process at Jesse Davis Park. The fencing has been placed up to block off the park. And when I went over yesterday, I saw they've already started on the football field in terms of clearing that area out. So
Great.
Dirty is moving.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bass. Appreciate it. All right, we're good on that. So I'll move on to item C. And the next three items are all reappointments or appointments. Item C is reappoint Michael Carey to the Retail 2 post of Douglasville Convention and Visitors Bureau Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2024. Ms. Jackson will handle this in the next two items also.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman Watts. Would you like me to discuss all three items currently?
I can read the next two and then just let her cover all three. Y'all want to do that?
Yes.
All right. Item D would be appoint Sydney Silvera to the Restaurant 1 post of Douglasville Convention and Visitors Bureau Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2024. And then item E is appoint Riley Governor to the city post of Douglasville Convention and Visitors Bureau Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2024. So go ahead, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street. As it relates to item C, Mr. Michael Carey, he is employed at Arbor Place Mall. This will be his third term that he's serving since he's been employed at Arbor Place Mall. He's in that Retail 2 post, and he's asked to be reappointed until December 31st, 2024. Of course, this is a 2-year term. I have spoke with our staff liaison, Ms. Rosado, and she is recommending that he's reappointed. As it relates to item D, Ms. Sydney Silvera, she currently serves as the employee for Proof of the Pudding. If you all know, she's been with Proof of the Pudding for about 2 months. That Restaurant 1 post is always held by Proof of the Pudding, who caters here at the Douglasville Conference Center. That's also for a 2-year term expiring December 31st, 2024. And then the last item, E, appoint Riley Govero. She is actually the Tourism Program Manager. She filled that position about 7 months ago. That position was formerly held by Ms. Samantha Rosado. And that Tourism Program Manager position always holds that city post to the Douglasville CVB. They're also the staff liaison that works beside Ms. Rosado for this board as well. That term ends December 31st, 2024, and it's also a 2-year term as well.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Any questions for Ms. Jackson on these three items? And we do appreciate their serving on these boards and being willing to give up some of their own time to do this. So thank you for that, and we will take those three items up on Monday. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight on Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking that committee. since it's your committee, but thank you so much. We'll move on then to Technology Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No business for the Technology Committee tonight.
Thank you, sir. Our last committee, we're running this marathon, is Transportation Committee, and the Vice Chair is Councilmember Adams.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor, under Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, council members. We appreciate your time. I know this is a holiday season. We had to sacrifice and try to make sure that we were here, so we appreciate it and appreciate the citizens coming out to take care of business, so, and to hear what's going on in the city. Do we have any other business from council members? Do you have anything? I had a couple of things. Mr. Roberts, I see. Ms. Roberts, if you can please come up and give us a status report. I know you've been working on this. Councilmember Burt Danley asked me to ask about the decorations for New Horizons, the north side. I know that Jesse Davis Park, we've heard earlier from our Parks Director and from Mr. Thompson that there was some renovation going on in the park, and so we weren't able to do the decorations like we've had in the past. And actually, some of the decorations that were on 92 were vandalized, or we had some concerns with that. So if you can just give us a brief update on that, I would appreciate it, and then I think Councilmember Burt Danley is watching, so.
Yeah, so to unpack that, so.
I know it's a lot, huh?
Well, it's not a lot, but to make sure I'm covering each item. So at JD Park, we had that large ornament that says, "Welcome to Douglasville."
Yes, sir.
That was right there on the front. So I was told construction was going to start earlier.
Yes, sir.
Than it actually has. So it's still questionable as to whether we could have put it there, so we didn't put it there. I think that's what's raised most of the ire, but we put it at Freedom Island at
Yes, sir.
Hospital and Campbellton Street to have access to it or to put it out.
Yes, sir.
So it's still questionable as to whether we could have put it over there. I know the construction is working. I have seen that going on. They're not quite in the area of where that would have been, but I'm not clear as to whether the electrical connections have been disconnected or that kind of thing. So it was a little bit of a long shot to put it over there unless we were going to tell the contractor to not start till January.
Yes, sir.
We did have a little bit of vandalism. Now, you and I have not talked about that, but staff has told me that we did have a couple of items over at the Worthing Park that we had up there. The one that had the toy-making machine, somebody
Yes.
had done something to it, but it also had aged out. So,
Okay.
Melissa Dickinson, I believe she's here. She was earlier, but we've been even talking about some of the ornaments. So you take, for example, the ball ornament right here at O'Neill Plaza.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm dealing with a little cold like everybody else. So we've had that about 4 years, but it's starting to show some issues. It's a good structure, but the wiring on it is showing issue of probably where it's been in the sun a good bit. And so I think we bought it in 2017, maybe, 2018, 2017. So I did talk to Ms. Dickinson about how we would talk to Lights Over Atlanta to see if they would be willing to relight it for us for next year.
Okay.
The structure itself is good, but some of the components on it that are plastic wrapped,
Yeah.
those are showing a lot of cracking. So we've had some issues when one light bulb goes out when it's raining, the entire
All of
fixture
it
does
goes
not
out.
work. Now, as far as what we all know as the old two-lane part of Dallas Highway, so we do have the same ornaments on the poles over there that we have had.
Okay.
Georgia Power did set some new poles. I was not aware of that, so I think we lost a couple of poles that had the electrical hookups on them. Georgia Power doesn't ask our permission to replace a
Right.
pole. Usually we would know about it, but they don't, that's not a required permitting work because it's a part of their facility.
Yes, sir.
So I think we lost a couple of opportunities there, but basically, that's where we're
That's
at.
where you're
And
at.
so,
Okay.
did I cover
You
everything on
did,
the
you
Christmas
did.
lights?
And just to kind of the update of I know City Manager and I were kind of looking to see if we can see if you have something hidden in the closet back there, maybe to put up. But there are some barriers with the poles that we didn't know there weren't electrical
Yeah.
outlets to hang some of the fixtures as well.
And then
So-
some of the fixtures that we use, like the pole hanging ornaments,
Mhm.
those are some that we've had for probably going on 10 years.
Yes, sir.
At least 8 to 10 years, maybe even longer.
Mhm.
And some of those are starting to have some issues a little bit. Now, none of that really sort of fits maybe with council because we have spent a lot with Lights Over Atlanta, and they have provided a lot of new lighting and fixtures that they maintain for us. But those are different than those.
Yes, sir.
And so, so whether we would switch gears next year or the year after, probably is something we'd have to discuss. And I'm not sure where JD Park will be next year construction-wise as to
Mhm.
whether we could put those lights. But, you know, we had Jesse Davis Park lit up pretty good last year.
Yeah, it was really pretty.
But we were not able to do that this year.
Yes, sir, we understand renovations happen. We're excited to have this renovation, $25 million put into the park over this term for a referendum, so.
Yes.
It's growing pains, and I appreciate you coming up to answer those questions. The only other thing I had was, and this may not be you, but Church Street, I've gotten some concerns about that. I don't know if it's east or west, but going towards Fairburn Road.
Now, are you
The-
referring
the
to
renovation and the-
the utility work?
Yes, sir.
So the utility work, let's see, today's Thursday, the contractor told us, and then WSA confirmed that they've got to reopen one of the cuts right here around Bowden Street and Church Street.
Yes,
They've got
sir.
to reopen one of those, probably not tomorrow, but on Monday. They have their asphalt contractor scheduled for Tuesday to come in and start paving the ones that are gravel. And then from there, we will work with WSA to try and get some of it a little better, even the patches they have made. So hopefully, before Christmas, all of those gravel cuts will be repaved. That's the plan, and I know looking at the weather a
Yes,
week
sir.
out sometimes can be a little risky, but it looks like 0% chance of rain Monday and Tuesday, 20% on Wednesday, back to 0 on Thursday. So hopefully, between now and next Thursday, they will be able to get those cuts covered up.
Thank you.
Now, and you didn't ask this, but there's a lot of cuts.
Yes, sir.
And for anybody that really doesn't understand what was happening, so, you know, WSA, they have certain mandates for different areas, and it's not just Douglasville. It's through the state and through the Fed. They have mandates to update and upgrade certain utility facilities as far as water and sewer. And I've known for a couple of years they were going to do this, and so I don't think they necessarily delayed it, but they did try to plan it as best as possible to make sure they did this work before we did any resurfacing on the roadway.
Yes, sir.
Church Street. So for this conversation, there's probably 40 or more cuts out there. So what I have discussed with WSA is that now that they're finishing those and they've got those cuts on them, and Ms. Hampton and I have talked about it, and in January, not only at council, but at the retreat, we'll discuss some of the resurfacing now that we have the new SPLOST that was approved by our awesome residents.
Yes, sir.
And I know we've talked about a lot of different things, and I'm sorry to ramble on here, but the last couple of years, we've talked about a lot of things for Church Street. But unfortunately, the elephant in the room as it relates to Church Street is it's got to be resurfaced.
Yeah.
So Ms. Hampton and I have talked about that. She's in agreement. We've talked about it at length earlier this week, that we will need to do a pretty good mill and inlay project on Church Street next year, end to end. I've been talking with the Ray Lynn folks at the amphitheater, and
Yes,
hopefully
sir.
we would have a project ready to do there and tie all that in so we don't have like one big patch down there and
Yeah.
new asphalt up here, try to tie it all in one big, long sweep.
Yes, sir.
But we're also working with WSA because right here particularly, if you think in terms of how the road at Rose Avenue is lower, and then you come up that hill at the old First Baptist Church.
Yes, sir.
And then you come across this knoll here, and then you drop down again. So in this area where we're on this, the
hill.
upper side here in front of, starting about the chamber and through here, all the way to to the old City Hall building where my office is. Some of those water lines are a little bit shallow.
Okay.
And WSA did not relay those. They did not, so we're talking about water lines that have been there for decades, probably older than most of us in the room. So it was an aging system, sewer, water and sewer. So that's what they've been doing. The reason there's no more cuts than there are, because this has been a pipe bursting project. And then the cuts are for the services that connect to each property that has a water or sewer service. So at least they didn't have to dig the entire road up like they would have had to have done 35 years ago or so. And so modern technology has allowed them to do a less invasive cut. But we're going to try and let some of these cuts sort of settle out with traffic between January, February, and March, and hopefully by April and May, that would give us time to have a contract in place, and we would be resurfacing the street about the time or just before the amphitheater would open.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts. We appreciate you. I didn't know you had meteorology skills either. You're talking about when it's raining. You're a meteorologist, too. You were talking about rain and all that.
Well, because of what we do, I have to stay on top of what the weather is, so.
Yes, sir.
I can't let snow and ice catch me asleep.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
All
you.
right, thank you.
You're welcome. And then the other thing was Mr. Bass, if you don't mind coming up, I just want to give one quick thing. Councilmember Davis had the BHE annual conference that was held here at the conference center, and the annual gala, I apologize. And so he talked to me about Juneteenth celebration, and so I had gone to Ohio last week to visit my brother, and I was in Steubenville, Ohio. Mayor Borelli talked to me and showed me all the plans that they have for Juneteenth. It's a federal holiday. So I was just wondering if he, and Councilmember Davis asked me to talk about this to put on our schedule for Parks and Recreation somewhere in June where we can look at Juneteenth dates.
Okay.
To have a parade. And so they're looking at having a parade. They have a committee already from BHE, and we'll talk to Councilman Davis and myself to see when you can have some dates, and we'll get together and see when we can set up something for a parade, if that's feasible with the schedule.
I'll get with our community relations department and see what we can do.
All righty, thank you. So I know, and I'm talking to you because you do July 4th and all of that.
Right,
parks.
right.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right, thank you. Thank you so much, council. I appreciate your indulgence. So if we don't have any other business, then we'll move on to updates from city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dodson.
No business, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Our staff attorney, Ms. Miranda Jordan. Thank you. The police department, Captain Sanders. No business, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Really quickly to the committee item under personnel. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind toggling, but I'll speak fairly quickly, and I think that what we have to present is fairly, it's fairly easy and self-explanatory. I have a memo attached to that committee item. The memo basically explains what we are recommending to do with the money in the budget from, that we plan for a cost of living adjustment for this fiscal year. I do believe that we don't necessarily need a large cost of living adjustment as we've done in the past in 2021 and 2022. My recommendation is basically looking at our pay scale. The thing that needs adjusting the most that's going to affect retention and recruitment is our minimum wage. Ms. Austin Bing has done some research, and she'll be able to explain to you that's also attached to your item, where many cities are moving their minimum wage up. Some cities are even setting a minimum wage at $20 per hour. I'm not recommending that we go there, but our lowest paid position is approximately about $31,000 a year. I think in order for us to be able to be competitive, not only for retention, but also for recruitment, we really need to move those lower paid positions somewhere around 35 plus. So my recommendation is that we use those funds to bump up those low positions from that $15.20 to $17.50 an hour. That gets us somewhere in mid-range. I'm also recommending to make certain that it's equitable across the board, that flat dollar amount that is going to require to bump up those lower positions, that we do that at the minimum of each position on the pay scale. So yes, it may mean that a person who is at the higher threshold making above $50,000 per year may on a percentage basis get a smaller amount, but they're really not the positions at the city that are really struggling the most or that are having issues with fair, what I would say, attainable wages as it states right now. Ms. Austin Bing has also prepared some information because I wanted to know how many of our employees are actually paid a wage of I should say, I had asked earlier how many of our employees are paid a wage of less than $50,000 a year, and a third of our staff currently make less than $50,000 a year. So this is going to affect a lot of our employees. It's also going to affect, as you know, as you see as a part of your attachments, the two departments that are still struggling with recruitment are public services, which Mr. Roberts' department, as well as the police department will be making, and parks and the police department, so we'll be making those adjustments there. We still have enough funds in the budget to, in this same pot of money, to have an across-the-board 2% to bump up our pay scale. The reason I'm going to suggest that is because I'm going to recommend that we don't do another pay and classification study after this until fiscal year 2026. That gets I do predict that we're going to continue to hover with working somewhere around that 40-plus vacancies. Ms. Callen is going to budget not for 100% again this upcoming fiscal year, but I'm not going to be recommending any more pay changes as far as the pay scale. I'm trying to get a recommendation that will allow us to be competitive, allow us to be in a place where we don't have to continue to make these changes and come before you. That's my recommendation. Ms. Austin Bing, if you want to make any comments about any of the attachments or anything that you have, but all of these recommendations are within the funds that you've budgeted for this fiscal year, so there won't be any change or any need to add any money to what I'm proposing. And the effective change for those employees that would be affected by us moving the pay scale, we're looking at 50 employees. So it's not going to affect everybody that moving on the pay scale. So the 2% would affect everyone. But I think just looking at where we are in the job market, and when you think about coming up in the spring, it's just very hard to hire someone to cut grass at $15 an hour nowadays, or to, refuge collectors. It's still very, very tough. But being competitive is where we want to be.
And City Manager, I'll just add, Mayor and Council, some of the responses from my listserv from my HR organizations that did not make this particular research have consulted with me that they are planning to make those changes January 1. So that was in addition to these current minimum wages that you will see. A lot of our neighboring colleagues are already moving the needle to go past the $17.50, and then a great bit of my colleagues responded that they are planning to make those changes and recommendations January 1, 2023. So we want to be in line with those as well.
And one of the things I'll add, you may hear some folks mentioning, as Ms. Austin Bing mentioned, and saying that, hey, we've implemented our pay study. I think, unfortunately, some cities were doing pay studies in the midst of what was happening with inflation, so they really technically have old data. So I think if someone were to commence a pay study now, they will see that those wages have significantly changed from where they were. Because if you remember, when we did our pay study 2 years ago, we had to really make some major adjustments because the data that they brought forth before us was not what was happening in the job market. So rather than go out and say, hey, let's just do a pay study, I don't necessarily think we need to spend the money for that. We can push that down further and deal with what we know is actually happening amongst our peers and where things are, so we can make certain that those individuals that are making a lower wage are actually going to be able to be dealt with on our pay scale.
Okay. Thank you so much, City Manager and Ms. Austin Bean. Do we have any questions from, yes, sir, Councilman Councilman Watts?
Madam Mayor, I just would like to thank staff for always being out in front of stuff. I mean, you have us prepared to be where we're at by decisions y'all made a couple years ago, and that just goes to the fact that we've got good people working for us, and they're keeping us where we need to be. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Councilman Watts. Any other concerns or comments? And I will tell you, City Manager, I was texting you yesterday. I was at Atlanta Regional Commission and Governors Committee meeting, and we were talking about the salaries and wages and COLAs around the region, and the same conversation is happening we're right where we need to be in the city of Douglasville. We're going to be competitive if we go ahead and pass this, so this will help us retain good employees.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Anything else, City Manager? All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Austin Bean, our Human Resource Director. We'll move on to comments from citizens and delegates. If you sustain the meeting and you'd like to address us, please come forward, and you have 5 minutes to talk to myself and council members about anything germane business to the city of Douglasville. Okay, we don't have any takers. We cannot go into executive session, am I correct, City Manager, because we don't have a quorum?
Unless our attorney tells us that we can vote to go into executive session since we don't have an attorney, we don't have a
You don't
quorum.
have a quorum to
Yeah.
vote to go into executive session.
Okay. So we don't have a quorum, so I guess we will just have a report. Do we have any other business to come before council? If not, then this meeting is adjourned.